Hey everyone, it's me, Sheena, broadcasting live from Dallas, Texas, where I'm here on holiday visiting my family, doing a little bit of work as well. It's been a lot of fun. It's very, very hot, but coming from Sydney where it's cold right now, I welcome this heat. As you know, we at BeScene, we are passionate about video marketing, but we're also passionate about people and how people play vital roles in their business. Today I want to interview somebody who plays a vital role in his business. He's been in the forefront of internet banking technologies. His name is Stan Solari, and he is the Senior Vice President of Application Development at Citibank. Stan is also my brother-in-law, and we have been talking about internet banking for, seems like forever, but it's only been probably about 15 years. In 1999, he told me that one day we would be doing banking on our phones. At this point, I was using a Nokia, and I had no idea how I would be doing banking on my phones. I didn't believe it, but sure enough, 15 years later, we're doing banking on our phones. So I thought today I'd spend a few minutes with Stan talking about the future of internet banking and where he sees the technologies headed and what we can expect in the future. So without further ado, Stan Solari. Stan, thanks so much for taking the time out to talk to us today. We have always had very interesting conversations, and I thought we would spend a few minutes talking about Citibank and where you see the future of internet banking.
I manage the application development team that focuses for customer facing. What that means is when we build in any kind of given applications, there's multiple steps in that applications, anywhere from a database in the back end to middleware to the front end. And my team has the direct focus of what the customer sees when they interact with those applications. I started my career at Citibank as being a sole developer of the front end. That role actually grown significantly to we actually had to create its own department called the Feds, Front End Development Services. I managed that department. When we were doing global bankings, that department has grown to about 150 people. And now our main focus is North America. We have at any given time about 50 people supporting North America just to do the customer facing.
Right. And how do you meet the demands of the customer?
First is understanding our customers. I think that's key, right? Understanding what their needs are is crucial in the financial institutions. Understand how customers interacts with technology. Citibank actually has a long history of being in the forefront of delivering services to their customers in the digital space. I'm not sure if a lot of people know this, but Citibank was the innovator of ATMs.
Oh.
They're the first company that actually brought ATMs to life from a financial institution. Some of our most recent releases was actually the iWatch. Citibank was the first preloaded financial institutions that was available on the iPhone watch.
Wow. So if you buy an iWatch now, Citibank application is on there,
Yeah.
and you do your internet banking from
Yeah.
your watch?
We actually had that pre-installed with Apple on the rollout of the iWatch.
So it's moved from mobile phones to watches.
And again, and this kind of goes back to the question that you asked about understanding our customers' demand.
Yeah.
What are people doing on which technologies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just to give you kind of an example, you're not going to sit down and start paying your monthly bills on a phone, on a watch,
Yeah.
right? So understanding which technology you're using for what. For example, if I need to quickly see my balance before I pay for dinner, or if I make a purchase, a watch would be an ideal thing that I could look up and see exactly how much is in my account.
Mm-hmm.
If I need to make a transfer, maybe a phone will be a easier device to select how much money to transfer
Mm-hmm.
and how to move money.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the month, when I'm doing my bills or my paying my mortgage and so forth, maybe a desktop view is more an ideal view for that. Understanding your customer, what they're using for what kind of transactions is key to understand where we're going to put our money into executing features, functions, in which space.
Yep. And so does the Costco deal also fall under meeting the customer's demands?
Absolutely. I think, well, first of all, the Costco deal
Tell us about the Costco deal, because not a lot of people probably know about this.
Yeah, so just last month in June 2016, we rolled out Citibank Visa in all the Costcos. So we'd taken the account that previously was owned by American Express to be the financial credit card to use at Costco is now going to be the Citibank Visa. We really had an awesome team that worked on that deal. In fact, one of the best stories about that deal was to close this deal in, a lot of financial institutions were bidding to be the primary card for Costco. Our team lived, breathed Costco life.
Yeah.
Anywhere from the only clothes they would wear would be Costco.
Right.
The only food that would be stacked in their refrigerators was Costco. If they go out to lunch, it'd be at a Costco. You know, so they really embraced the Costco culture, and I think that's why we had the winning team to get that bid. Also, I want to point out that the Costco deal, we're offering somewhere about 2.5% on pretty much all merchandise if you use a Costco credit card in Costco. 2.5% is one of the best offers any credit card you could find on the market.
Wow. So that's a reason enough alone to get a Citibank card.
Absolutely. Absolutely, especially if you're a Costco member.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So where do you see banking applications headed? I mean, we're already at the watch. Where do you see it in the next 15 to 20 years?
So, great question, right? And like you were saying before, we had a great little conversation 15 years ago when it was so hard to envision that you could do banking on a mobile phone. But I think these days that there's nothing you cannot do on a mobile phone. In fact, if they take away the mobile phones with us, I think people will start slowing down.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, but it's, and we're still exploring what can we do with a mobile phone, right? But we don't stop there. And you got to always keep a fresh eye on what is technology giving us, right? And how do we leverage those technologies in the financial institutions? One of a good example is we just started exploring smart TVs. A smart TV is a wild west market right now. Just like a phone, you could download your applications on there. So how far do you think before it's going to be not only are you watching a commercial, but you could push a button on your remote control to actually have that product delivered?
Wow.
Now, when that does come true, there has to be definitely a financial institution that supports that kind of transactions. So these are areas that still haven't been tapped into.
Yep.
And there's definitely a lot of growth in technologies, anywhere from wearable technologies, where you're going to start seeing that your clothes actually have technologies built into them, where you have displays on your shirt sleeve.
Wow.
You know, so again, those are technologies we're going to have to explore exactly how can we support our customers with these new technologies.
Yeah. What about Bitcoin? Is there a lot of talk about Bitcoin in Citibank?
There's definitely a lot of talks about Bitcoin in all financial institutions.
Yeah.
It is a very interesting concept. It is a very new concept to really understand how can we leverage it.
Yeah.
The potential of Bitcoin is huge. I think at this point there's still some control that's missing around Bitcoins. By what I mean is control is more about standardization.
Okay.
How do we standardize the Bitcoin and especially the blockchains, right? Different banks have their own vision on how to do it. And I think that's what's taken a lot of time, is to understand exactly how can all these banks come together and have a single standard on how to do blockchains.
Yeah. Well, you're a wealth of information, Stan. I can talk to you forever, but I think we'll wrap it up now. Is there anything else that you want to say? Oh, I would love to know, how is it like working at Citibank? Because you've worked there for ages.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those type of companies where you make yourself at home, right? It's coming into the office. You do feel your work with your other family. Yeah,
that's right.
And actually, coming from a background of front-end development, front-end development is a very niche development market that has a direct impact to how customer perceives a company, right? Um, and actually, I was doing interviews over at UT in Austin,
UT? What's UT?
University of
Oh,
Texas.
sorry. Okay.
UT Austin.
Yeah.
And we have this inside the company. We have a technical leadership programs where we actually interview top grads in the technology or financial institutions to try to bring them on to our leadership program, which is an awesome program. So I was conducting some interviews there with some graduates, and one of the graduates asked me a question. Says, coming from the front end, what drives you to work for a financial company? Actually, I took a step back and thought about this for a minute, and I mean, you would think, being a front end developer, you do want to work at the popular, the hip companies,
the Googles,
the Googles,
the Facebooks,
exactly. And but there's definitely an aspect of working in financial institutions that's an emotional aspect, and I don't think a lot of people realize this until they give this some thought. When you talk about emotions and emotions in the persons, the first thing is like, where does a person draw their emotions from? The first thing is always going to be family. Close friends, family are the first places that you have where you build emotions from. Your second place will be your finances, right? When you make a purchase, when you buy something on Amazon, when you give a thumbs up, a like on Facebook, it brings only a positive emotions, right? It brings, but when you're able to evaluate something and says, hey, I could afford to pay my rent, or I have enough money to put my kid through college, or I'm short and I'm going to have to find means to pay bills, you bring a whole set of emotions that are a lot more critical in your life. And being a front-end developer, knowing that you're painting that picture for people, it's powerful. And that's definitely a challenge that I like to deal with on a day-to-day basis. But I think, back to your questions, I think when you ask what it's like working for Citibank, I think the number one answer that you always get from any Citibank employee, it's the people. It's definitely the people. I think there's a bond there that's the people believe that they can lean on each other and depend on each other for their delivery and for the company's delivery. And as a company, even though we're large corporate banks, we truly believe we're doing something that helps the users. And we truly are working with always in mind of how can we make their financial abilities easier for the user.
Right. So customer comes first.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much, Stan. It's been a pleasure, like always, talking to you. And I'm sure we'll have another interview in 10 years' time talking about telepathic internet banking. Well, that's it, everyone. Hope you've enjoyed speaking to my brother-in-law, Stan Solari. And
thank you. And thank you for listening.